Hello and welcome again to another Bridgend Farmhouse cooking on a budget. Last week we were doing ceviche in our Peruvian session. So this week we're going to continue with Peruvian sessions as the rest of the next for the next 3 weeks. Today we're going to do a dish called arroz chaufa. I was planning on making lomo saltado, which is another Peruvian classic, Chinese influenced, and I was going to give it a twist. I was going to make it with liver instead of beef fillet, but this was causing commotion on the internet, and I was probably going to be locked out of the Peruvian consulate if I did. So I've changed, and I'm going to do, still in the exploring the Chinese influence of Peruvian cookery, I'm going to do this dish that's arroz chaufa, which is very cooking on a budget. It is extremely easy to make and it takes very little time to prepare. So for this dish, we've got my ingredients for today are rice, coriander, very typical, our chicken. I'm going to use chicken thighs because they're the cheapest cut I could find, and also they are very juicy. I prefer chicken thighs to chicken breast actually. Chicken breast is more expensive, but for me it's a little bit drier, you know, so I quite like chicken thighs. Then we've got some tomatoes and some spring onions, a pepper and an onion, and some soya sauce which I've got in the fridge. So let's start cooking. I'm going to start by putting the rice on. Rice in Peru is like potatoes in Ireland or Scotland, although you know potatoes are actually Peruvian. Our rice, we eat rice every day in Peru, yeah? So to make our rice, I'm just going to show you how we make rice in Peru. I'm going to get need a garlic, vamos a ver, and some salt. I'm going to get my salt. So for my garlic, first thing I'm going to do actually, it's okay. I'm going to first put my rice on. I'm just going to get a couple of garlic cloves. You know, I'm not even going to bother in peeling them. I'm just going to give them a wee crush. Could use a knife also. Just a gentle crush. Throw them in my pot. A little bit of oil, and I'm going to put it in the fire. And in Peru, one thing that, at least in my city, because Peru is a very extensive country, so the cuisine varies very much between the jungle, the coast. I was born in the mountains in Arequipa. So we use Jamaican spice. It is a kind of Jamaican spice or allspice. It is a kind of pepper. It's super aromatic. It's not spicy, but it's very, very aromatic, and it's very typical to find this in our Peruvian rice. So I'm just going to throw a couple of peppers in the rice, and I'm going to get, for 2 people, a cup of rice is enough. I'm going to do a cup and a half because I'm going to leave some rice for tomorrow for my lunch. So I'm going to take advantage and I'm going to prepare it now. So a cup of rice and another half, like that. Now normally when you cook rice, the saying, or what people say, is that you use double the amount of water for the amount of rice, and that's true. But what I do, my trick for the perfect rice, is that I put actually a little bit less than, a wee bit less than double. So if I've got a cup and a half of rice, I'm going to put nearly 3 cups. So I've got 1 cup and 2 cups and 2 cups and a half. Now, rice in Peru is like a religion, yeah? It has to be perfect because it's something we eat every day. So there are a couple of tricks. Like one trick I've just shown you is don't put double the amount of water, just a wee bit less. Then salt, you know what I do normally to know if your rice is salted enough. What I do is I just taste the water. And if it's a little bit salty, that's great. You know, you need to taste the salt in the water because salt is going to get absorbed by the rice and it's going to be okay. So initially, your water should taste slightly salted. Okay, so we've got a bit of a problem, technical situation today with the comments, but I know that my prima Vania from Peru is saying hello and she says that she's liking very much the rice. So hola Vania, ¿qué tal? Bueno, pues gracias por unirnos and welcome to cooking at Bridgend Farmhouse. Okay, so we've got the rice is on. I bring it to a quite a lot of heat at the start, cover it, and then once it starts boiling, you bring it down to the minimum. And you don't touch the rice, yeah? You don't stir it because it releases the starch and becomes a little bit gooey and sticky, and we want like very grainy rice, yeah? I'm using American long grain or long grain rice. You can also do it with basmati, but even with basmati, I would add a wee bit less water even, a touch less. And also basmati can be a bit more trickier. You can't overcook. You can overcook basmati quite easier than this one. Okay, so I've got this on the go. Next thing, I'm going to start preparing my chicken. Just going to put this for a moment. And my chicken. So, yes, this is a Chinese dish. It's a Chinese influenced dish. It's called arroz chaufa. In Peru, we've got a massive Chinese influence, and there's been a very big immigration in the late 19th century. There was a very, very big immigration of Chinese people into Peru. After slavery had been abolished, in Peru there was a lack of workforce, so they approved the bringing in labor from China. At the time, China was, I suppose, not doing as great as they're doing nowadays economically, so people were immigrating in their thousands, hundreds of thousands. So obviously with immigration comes gastronomy, and we got this massive influence of Chinese and Peruvian cookery, no? The mix of Chinese and Peruvian in Peru is called chifa. So if you go in Peru to the chifa, you're going to eat to the Chinese, no? Although the dishes are all are mixed. So I got chicken thighs. I'm just going to clean them very quickly. I just like to take the fat off. Like that. There is also bone in this. There are better ways to clean the bone out of this. Like really get a very nice clean bone out. I'm not going to bother today because I'm going to use the bones later on to make a soup. So all the meat that stays in the bone, I'm going to end up using anyway, no? So again, chicken thighs. I bought a kilo of chicken thighs for £1.65. So that's very cheap, you know, and it's a whole kilo. Probably after I end up with I finish taking the bone and the skin, I end up with obviously less weight and meat, but still I'm saving myself the labor from the butcher, you know, and I've got the bones for a stock, so it's all good stuff. So I'm also going to take the skin off. I'm seeing here Margarita. Hello Margarita, very welcome to our program. I hope you've got something to eat, if you're a wee bit hungry. If not, you're always welcome after restrictions end to come and have an arroz chaufa with us. Okay, so I'm just going to do one more. Going to take the skin off. And okay, and the bone. Normally cut over the bone, then a wee bit to the sides. As I say, normally I would be a bit more careful taking the meat of the bone, but you know, if you're doing this at home, you can take a bit more care taking the meat, or just leave your bones, you know, to make yourself a nice soup. Okay, so that's enough there. I'm going to get myself a wee bin. I like to have a little bin beside me all the time. Those are for my soup. I'll just use this, keep it here in the back. Okay, so my rice is boiling. I'm going to now take it to the minimum. Okay, there you go. And my chicken, I'm just going to cut this in a couple of pieces. Nice, fairly big chunks like this, you know. You want a couple of chunks sort of this size, and then we're going to fry them. Okay, un poquito por aquí. There is so much Chinese influence in Peruvian cookery. We've got another dish, the lomo saltado. The one I was going to prepare is also a stir-fry kind of a dish. Okay. I think somewhere I read that around 15% of Peruvian population has some sort of Chinese descendant. So imagine that's a lot of people. Okay, so that's my chicken. I'm going to put it on now to fry. I'm going to put my rice at the back and bring it to a low heat. I'm going to put this. We're going to fry the chicken in here. Okay. Next. I'm going to fry the chicken, and I am going to start with the veg. Okay, yes, my Vania, it is true that Peruvian cookery is a massive mixture of different cuisines, you know. We've had so much immigration. We've got Spanish brought their Arab influence and European influence. Then we've had Japanese, a lot of Japanese influence. We've got obviously the autochthonous Peruvian cookery. We've got Italians. There was a massive Italian immigration also. And they've all brought their food, no? And Peru, people have been very, very clever in adapting all those kinds of cookery and just bringing them together in what we know as Peruvian gastronomy nowadays, no? Plus the fact that the land is so rich in Peru, we get such an amazing variety of ingredients, you know? You've got the jungle, you've got the coast, the Pacific Ocean has like every single fish you can imagine. We even have tadpoles in the sea. Yeah, that's a joke. There are not really tadpoles in the sea, but we've got like the amount of food you can get of seafood in Peru is just like fantastic, no? Okay, so let's do going to fry our chicken. To fry the chicken, you want a hot pan, a very hot pan, nearly smoking. Because you want to cook your chicken fast so that it seals quickly and it keeps all the juice inside, you know. I think I'm quite good actually making my chicken. I always get compliments for my chicken. And then when I get asked like, Eric, how is it that you get such a nice chicken, no? So I think my answer is always, don't cook your chicken for 2 hours, you know? Don't cook the Scooby out of your chicken. You want it to cook it as fast as possible, so that it maintains its juiciness in the inside, no? Another trick probably I like doing with the chicken is, if you have the time, take it out of your fridge 20 minutes, half an hour before you cook it, so that it becomes to room temperature. The inside of the chicken will probably be at 5 degrees at least if it's in the fridge. So when you throw it in your frying pan, the outside is going to start cooking really quickly, but until the inside of the chicken gets the temperature for cooked, which is over 75 degrees, that's going to take a long time for the inside of the chicken to cook, and the outside will already be dry. So room temperature chicken and a very hot frying pan. So I'm just going to, that's quite hot. I'm going to leave it, wait a second more. I really like it really hot, and I'm actually going to get myself a pot, a top for my okay, this should be enough. It's okay. Okay, like that. I'm going to throw my chicken in, and I'm not going to move the frying pan, yeah, at the start, because when you throw food in the frying pan, temperature of the frying pan is going to go down, and you want it to bring the temperature up as fast as possible. So if you start moving your pan around, it actually, your pan will lose temperature. So throw your food in, don't touch it. Wait till your frying pan reaches temperature again, and after that you can start moving it around a wee bit. I'm going to like that. At this point I'm going to put a little bit of pepper, a wee bit pepper, and then I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to wash my board, and I'm going to start to prepare the vegetables. So, you know, if you've eaten Chinese stir fry, this is very much a Chinese stir fry. It is a very good dish to use your leftovers. If you've got a wee bit of chicken, meat, pork. I actually made a chow pha with tuna, and I took it on a hill walking trip the other day. Obviously the tuna is very easy to make, because you just do your rice, and then you just throw in your veg and your tuna out of the tin. Okay, so I'm going to move this a wee bit like that. And I'm going to start doing my vegetables. So I'm going to get a container to put my veg. I'm going to do my pepper. There are many ways to cut a pepper. I like this way here. I cut the tail and the head, then I do a wee line through it like this, and I run my knife through the pepper in this way. I get rid of the seeds, and then this I can pull, and this way I've got the whole of the pepper, so I use absolutely every single scrap of the pepper, so I have no waste. Okay, so you want to cut nice squares. Doesn't matter if they're not square, but you know, fairly small. You don't have to be ridiculously small, just, you know, something so that it looks nice, like that. And okay, you know, today we've got a little bit of a technical issue with our systems so that I can read your comments. So we'll probably not be able to go through every comment, but don't worry. We will sort the issue for the next show. Okay, so I'm stirring this. Okay. Okay, so this is my peppers. And now I'm going to do my onion. For the onion, I'm also going to cut it in squares, yeah? So I'm just going to cut the tip of the root off this other way, and I'm going to peel it. Okay. Let me see. Let's peel this onion. In Peru, we love red onion, by the way. We do a lot of salad with red onion. Before we finish this season of Peruvian cookery, I'm going to prepare a very typical salad we've got in Peru. Okay, so my chicken's nearly there, rice is nearly ready. So I keep the root on because I'm going to cut squares on the onion, and if I cut the root off, when I start cutting, the onion is going to disintegrate on me, it's going to break to pieces. So to keep everything in one piece, meanwhile I cut, I leave the root on. So just going to go this way first, just taking care of not cutting myself. I once had a very bad cutting onion. I ended up in hospital. So just be careful when you're chopping stuff. Okay, so now I'm going this way, like that. And see the onion, although it's looking a little bit weird, it's still staying in one piece, you know. If I'd cut the root off, then the onion wouldn't. It would be more difficult to get my wee squares. Okay. So I think my chicken should be ready. Okay, there you go. I'm going to actually keep those trimmings of onion for my stock later on. Just going to save this piece also, my stock. Okay, so this is my chicken ready. I'm just going to put the fire off, set it aside, and that's ready. My onion. This is my onion. I'm going to get my coriander. You know, I bought all of this. It cost me less than £5, and from here I could probably feed 4 people, no problem. With a cup and a half of rice and all the veg and the chicken, you could get 4 people meal for less than £5. So I think that is quite cooking on a budget. I'm going to rinse my probably this is a wee test I did earlier. You noticed I didn't wash my pepper. So that is to show you what you have never got to do. You always have to wash your veg, yeah? Don't believe I forgot. You know, I always wash my peppers, but you know, sometimes under the pressures. Well, actually, it was just a test. I just wanted to notice, see if in the comments anyone noticed that I hadn't washed my pepper. Podría ser un saltado de vainitas o atún. Okay, see, my cousin Vania in Peru talking about saltado de lomo. She's saying that you can actually make saltado with tuna, or you can make saltado. I haven't done saltado de tuna in years. And you could also do saltado of runner beans. Yeah, that's true. There's such an amount of variety of food in Peru, you know. We're still, at the moment, I'm waiting for the pet shops to open to get some guinea pig. But that's going to take probably a little bit of time yet. Guinea pig is a very, very traditional food in Peru. They're a very tasty pet. Okay, so I think, yes, one last thing I'm going to do, which is quite typical, is I'm going to make an omelette. So I'm going to get my eggs. Un momento. So let's get a couple of eggs, and this is a very simple omelette I'm going to make. That's there. To throw this there. You know, this dish is a dish I like to do very often, sometimes when I'm working, cooking, and I'm asked to do the staff dinner. This is a dish I like making because, you know, at work you don't have too much time really to do the staff dinner, you know, you're always chasing your tail. So this, to be able to make a staff meal for 20 people and take maybe an hour or less, you know, half an hour, 1 hour, it is a very good dish when you're in a hurry. So really, if you think about it, I am cooking all of this in the time that the rice is cooking. So if rice takes 20 minutes to half an hour, then that's the time really it should take me to prepare this dish. The rice is also nearly ready. You know your rice is ready because you can open it and with a fork scrape the top, and if the top of the rice is cooked, then your rice is cooked. So that's how to know. So now I'm going to do my omelette. Not a fancy omelette, a French style where you do your beating and your this, your that. This is a very simple way of making your omelette. Just throw it in there. Then just stretch it a wee bit. The bigger, the wider, the better, because then what we're going to do with this omelette is that we are going to chop it. We're going to cut it. Okay. You see, hopefully our frying pan will be forgiving and we don't stick it. Okay, let's see. I think, yep, there it is. And let's get our spoon. Let's give it a wee tilt, like that. Broke a little bit, but no problem because we're going to cut it anyway. Okay. So next thing, get our egg, cut it in pieces. You know what I also got, because I found it quite cheap. I found my spring onions, so I'm going to also throw a couple of spring onions. You could throw any veg into your chaufa rice. Spring onions is very typical. Then your onion, very typical, peppers, and practically that's it, you know. Okay. So you know what? You should also wash your spring onions. So the way I like to wash my spring onions is just going to get the egg out of here. Just going to use the chopping board, then everything's cooked. I like to first chop them and then wash them, because sometimes you get earth or you get stones in the inside of those tubular leaves. So you wash them, but you actually miss the stones. And once I made a dinner, I think I'd made this dish probably, and there was a stone and someone broke a tooth. So I definitely recommend to wash it this way, so that you make sure you don't end up with any stones or teeth, you know, because my friend wasn't too happy, to be honest. Okay, but I'm going to get colander. So that's nearly us. Now we just left to mix everything together. Okay, so I'm thinking, what am I going to do next week? Probably we'll try a saltado. I've also been asked to make a pastel de choclo, which is a corn tart, which is very typical in Peru. There are very different, many variations of okay. So yes, Peruvians like this kind of food show. Yeah, I think Peruvians like cookery in general, you know. Peru, the gastronomy in Peru is a big part of Peruvian culture. One of the biggest parts of Peruvian culture is the food, you know, like in many other countries, but definitely Peru is a food place. It's a place, if you like gastronomy and you like traveling, then Peru is a must destination. Peru was put on the map not that long ago by probably one of the most influenced chefs in Peruvian gastronomy is a guy called Gaston Acurio, which has done an incredible work for Peruvian gastronomy and for the country in general. He's a very well-respected member of the Peruvian people. Okay, so I'm going to mix everything together. This, you know, Gaston Acurio has a lot of cookery schools in the most deprived areas in Peru, and he's giving young Peruvians a chance to study cookery, you know, to make a profession for themselves, and then this workforce is being exported around the world, you know, with this boom of Peruvian cookery, and a lot of that is thanks to this man Gaston Acurio, which yeah, I would recommend everyone to watch his TV shows. He's a very nice guy. Okay, so this is our rice. Now we're just going to throw all our veg in, and next I'm going to throw my chicken in. You know something? Now I'm going to add soya sauce. One thing I forgot to do, I like to, when I'm finishing frying my chicken, I throw a little bit of soya sauce with the chicken so that it actually infuses a wee bit, you know? Okay, so one last thing. I keep forgetting wee things. So I'm going to throw in a little bit of ginger, fresh ginger. This gives it a nice and fresh taste, and probably, you know, Chinese influence and ginger come together. So again, I'm going to just chop it as thin as I can, and you can always grate your ginger. Thing is, when I grate the ginger, I get half of the ginger stuck to the grater, so I just rather cut it in small pieces like this, and that's good enough for me, you know. You chew really tiny pieces of ginger, but there's nothing too powerful. I think you've noticed that I always use a serrated knife. I've got another knife here, which is not a serrated knife, which probably would do the job better. It's just that I'm just used to working with one knife, you know. One serrated knife practically, in my experience, is nearly the only knife you need, except one of those for some things and maybe a little knife, you know. But that I get along with just one knife quite comfortably. And finally, a bit of soya sauce, generously, but be careful, because if you're salting your rice and you're throwing soya sauce is quite salty also. So better is to put some soya sauce, mix it, taste it, and if you're okay, then add a wee bit more. But just be careful you don't overdo your soya sauce and everything becomes too salty. I honestly do it all the time, and I many times over salt things, you know. But there's nothing wrong with adding something, tasting it, and then correcting it a wee bit. So just by the color of it, I know that I'm going to need more soya sauce. This is a light soya sauce. In Peruvian cookery, I think people quite like dark soya sauce. Some people use a mixture of soya sauce. I'm just using light soya sauce because it's the one I've got in the fridge, and this is cooking on a budget, so I'm just using what I've got in the fridge. So there you go. This is your arroz chaufa. Yeah, from Chifa. Okay. Well, I've got lots of comments from my family. Thank you very much, Tia Augusta. I hope I can very soon go to Peru to eat some of your food. Okay, so I'm going to serve one of those to see, so that you can see how it looks. Just going to get a plate. Okay. So I'm just going to use a soup ladle. Okay, and like that, and that is the very simple, very easy to prepare chaufa rice. Okay, and cut a few veg, that's all it is, you know. Throw it all together and add a bit of soya sauce, you know. The chicken, super moist, fantastic. Well, very nice. This with a freshly made lemonade or with a beer, really nice. Well guys, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for who is new and hasn't seen our cookery programs before. This is cookery programs made from Bridgend Farmhouse, which is a charity organization that operates in Edinburgh in the area of Cameron Toll. This program is funded by the Edinburgh Integration Joint Board, so thank you very much to them, and well, I hope I see you very soon, so next Monday at the same time, and we will see you here again. Thank you very much and see you later. Enjoy. Bye.